Alright guys, so this is kind of a follow-up of a Stormhawks pairing video I did a while back, and I was inspired to do a little bit of a follow-up after watching Carlotta Studios' her videos, which are actually a response to my first video, so this is in response to hers. It's like a weird game of tag we're playing that we're not playing at all, but yet we are. It's a tagception of sorts, which it's not tag, but at the same time it has the same concepts of tag, so therefore it would be tag, but it is not, for we are not... Whatever. Whatever. I'm getting too far into this. So, yeah, I figure, what the hell, why the hell not? Let's talk about, let's talk a bit about some more pairings that I like in the Stormhawks universe. And this kind of started me off doing other, pairing videos. I talk about my other favorite ships from it, and yeah, this was kind of the starting point. And I actually want to go into a little more depth with the pairings that I've talked about in the past. I want to kind of talk about more of those pairings that I've talked about in the previous video and kind of go a little more deeper into it, So, anyway, let's get started with, of course, Arrow and Piper. I, of course, really dig Arrow and Piper. It's a great ship. I think it is just oodles of just super durableness, and yeah, you can't really say much about it other than it makes a lot of sense. But then again, it falls into the trope of the main guy getting with the main girl. But at the same time, I think they have Arrow and Piper have a lot of chemistry, and it's very clear in Season 2 that there are points where Piper just was about to jump Arrow's bones. At some point, she was gonna, like, mount his ride. Bow chicka bow wow. Anyway. But no, of course, if you, this is like the main flagship pairing of the Stormhawks universe. You usually see this is the one ship that everyone pretty much follows through with. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, that's kind of my big ship right there. That is kind of my, big, kind of ship right there. Anyway, so, what was I going to say? Following that is probably... Well, that's the big ship. Here's my main ship of the series. Here is my main ship, I should say. That Arrow and Piper... While I will say that Arrow and Piper are super adorable, and I really enjoy the pairing, there's actually one other, and this is my main flagship right here, and that's Repton and Starling. Repton and Starling, and let me explain why. It's not, most of the relationship would probably go the route of, like, just straight up hate fucking. That's the only catharsis they could reach at first, because any other way it would end violently. But yeah, I think a lot, and this kind of comes from my headcanon for the most part, is that, and here's the beautiful thing about Stormhawks. Here is the very, very beautiful thing about Stormhawks, is that it's one of the few worlds that, even though we don't get to explore much of the world, it's literally a giant sandbox for all of us to play in. It's very much like the Star Wars universe, where there's so much in that universe where you can literally do almost anything, and it would be like, yeah, I could see that. There's so much headcanon, there's so much room in the Stormhawks universe, even more, I would say, than the Star Wars universe or the Star Trek universes, or even, this would be something like in something you would see, like, so much headcanon universe that you can build with it's definitely on par with, like, something you'd see in World of Warcraft, this kind of world building that you could do yourself, really. And that's one of the few times I've seen that in cartoons, where there's so much of the world, but we don't see enough of it, and there's literally so much you could do here. It's a land of 1,000 terras. But anyway, a lot of my headcanon... Also, thank you, Carlotta. I'm glad you enjoyed my Raptor headcanon. But yeah, basically, as I've said before, Raptors, in my headcanon, are very much like a barbarian race. Like, it's kind of like a combination of Viking and Spartan traditions, where the female Raptors are incredibly aggressive, they're incredibly strong, and male Raptors look for strong mates. They always look for strong mates, and yeah, preferably it's a major turn-on for male Raptors if they get beaten by a female. And that to them, they're like, oh my god, she'd make a great mother for my future children. We would have a strong bloodline, because that's the big thing with Raptors, is that they're all, much like in warrior tradition, a strong woman means strong children, and your bloodline is strong. So in Repton's head, in my head canon, is that after he gets beaten by Starling, he's like, "Oh my God, this woman needs to be the mother of my future children." Yeah, but of course, Repton was the one responsible for killing all of the Interceptors, Starling's Sky Knight team. So yeah, it is very difficult. It would be very difficult for their relationship, but I always had it that they kind of they eventually kind of get over it. In one kind of scenario, I had it that Repton did have a lot of affection for her because, well, yeah, she's a warrior and he respects that, and he really desires a strong queen, and he hasn't been, he hasn't found the right female raptor. And of course, the king of Bo-Katan quintessentially going after a human as a queen, that left a bit of a bad taste in everyone's mouth in Bo-Katan. So, of course, with Starling has to constantly prove herself, not just because she's a human living in a world of raptors. It's because, yeah, I'm an outsider in this world, but at the same time, I'm at home here because at heart, Starling's a warrior, and she's always felt like the outsider looking in. Even like I always had it that she was always a little off. In the sense that even when she was among the Interceptors, she was kind of like the lone wolf of the group. And when when the Interceptors were gone, it kind of, in a sense, almost freed her in a way, because now she was alone again. But now among the Raptors, she almost has a lot of respect for this kind of savage culture, because now it feels like she can be a full warrior, and she commands respect out of it. And I also had it that the Raptors eventually do kind of accept Starling as their queen because they do see a strong leader in her. They see a strong, very powerful woman who, you don't like me being queen? Fuck you, or fuck you, I'm in charge. That was kind of Queen Starling's mantra, more or less. Anyway, so there you go, right there. I know I have the most unorthodox ships from here on out, but yeah. Now you're probably wondering, well, did you ship anyone with Dark Ace? Have you ever shipped anyone with Dark Ace? Not really. I've never really shipped anyone with Dark Ace, and here's why. I feel like Dark Ace is one of those characters who wouldn't really go into romance. I do see the logic behind Carlotta's, because she enjoys Ravis and Dark Ace. And I know a lot of people who are like that, who also ship it. I can see it, but not in a romantic sense. More like, Ravis is more like, hey, you, me, bed, now. And Ace would be like, okay. That's probably how the relationship would go, is that, one too many drinks or one too many missions, or, they're bored and Ravis is feeling a lot of anger, and Dark Ace is like, you want to bump uglies? But no, in a relationship form, I've never really shipped Dark Ace with anyone because I feel like he's incapable of loving anyone. It's very much in the sense of like, I've always kind of compared Cyclonus and Dark Ace as a kind of like a Sith Lord and apprentice, and it's very scary again how you can clearly see the similarities between Palpatine and Vader through Cyclonus and Vader. The Emperor who has all the power and has an entire empire at her beck and call, with a soldier who was a former knight of a republic of sorts who turned against them, went to the dark side, and killed his former friends and betrayed them. Yeah, if you didn't see the similarities between Dark Ace and Darth Vader, I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, where was I going with this? But yeah, I don't really think that Ace is incapable. I think Ace is really incapable of love, but that doesn't mean he can't, have a little shag now and again, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to diss Carlotta's pairing, and I do see the logic behind it, but yeah, me personally, I just can't ship him with anyone. Now moving on to a little more unorthodox ship that I've aforementioned in the previous video, is Finn and Suzy Lu. And you're probably wondering, what the hell? Finn and Suzy Lu? That's right out of nowhere. It's one of those kind of ships where, Stormhawks especially, I've come to realize that the Stormhawk ships I have Um, with the Stormhawk ships, I'm kind of very scatter all over the place. It's one of the few ships where I've like one of the few places where I've just had the weirdest ships. But there's so many characters you can see them working together in some capacity. And the last one I'll save, and I talked about it before, but yeah, that one's a little more cracky. But I'll get into that. This is also a little cracky, but you can see it at the same time. Finn and Suzy Lu, mostly because they're both very fun-loving, they're both very energetic, and I've always had it in my headcanon for the Blizzarians is that they're a very matriarchal society, meaning that the females are in charge. It's a very female-driven society, and much how, like, in Bogotan, raptors, choose their mates based on strengths, it's almost the same way with the Blizzarians, except it's the females who go looking for mates. They get, they're in charge, and they get to pick who they, hook up with. So I could see Finn and Suzy Lu more or less having a lot of fun together. I could actually see it as more like Finn is kind of going on, like, Finn's kind of like, you want to have a date? And Suzy Lu's like, yeah, like, it would just be, like, for a fun date, but then they eventually realize, hey, we have a lot of fun together. Let's do this again sometime. It's also really cute because Suzy Lu's quintessentially almost 6 feet tall, and poor Finn's up to her is a lot shorter than her. I've also had it that Blizzarians are also more agile and physically stronger than humans, as well as, of course, they clearly show they have enhanced senses, and I've also had it that that female Blizzarians are slightly stronger than males, like they are physically more durable, and I even have it that Blizzarians actually have healing factors, because obviously if you've seen the stunts Billy Rex and the rest of the Absolute Zeros do, and see them get up from said injuries, it's kind of obvious that they can heal really quickly, so that's, seeing all those injuries and then just see them shake it off, it's just, it's kind of led to my headcanon of, yeah, they probably can heal like Wolverine. Anyway, so getting back to the ship that is why did I say Penn? Finn and Suzy Lu. Again, very fun-loving. I could see them pulling pranks on everyone. Like no one would be safe from their hilarious wrath. And I could see them definitely just kicking back and just enjoying each other's company. Finn is very clear that he enjoys humans. He enjoys the company of, human girls. But I think it would be more like something out of a Dare if they did get together, where Suzy Lu would be like, well, maybe you're just looking at just humans. You ever thought about interspecies? And Finn's like, no. Are you suggesting? And Suzy Lu would just be like, yeah, let's do this. Like that's how I kind of see that kind of relationship starting, is something out of just like a Dare, more or less. Anyway, so that's kind of how I see the Finn Suzy Lu and why ship, and why it kind of speaks to me. I do think I want to bring this up real quick, is that Carlotta, I know you're watching this. I know you're watching this because this is like ringing a dinner bell for you. I know this. You've actually gotten me in. I actually really enjoy the idea of Junko and Dove. Like, that makes a lot of sense, and how you explained it, that was super adorable. And I was like, I'm shipping Junko and Dove now. It's adorable. It's completely, utterly adorable. So yeah, Dove and Junko. There you go. Thank you, Carlotta, for inspiring a ship for me. Anyway. So the final ship is probably the most crackiest, and I just have fun writing the two characters, and that is Cyclonus and Perry. Cyclonus and Perry, the main reason of why I kind of ship it is mostly it's inspired by the myth of Hades and Persephone. If you don't know the legend of Hades and Persephone, tongue-tied, the story is this. Hades basically kidnapped a woman named a goddess named Persephone, who was her mother was the goddess of harvest and springtime, and yeah, for 3 months she stayed in the underworld until she was forced to give back. But Hades was like, hey, she's my bride now, and basically Zeus said, hey, she's going to stay down there for 3 months, and then she'll come back to you. And Persephone's mother would weep for her daughter in the 3 months' time that she stayed down in the underworld. So That's kind of the myth about winter. And I've always that was kind of a big inspiration for why Hades. It's like a um, Yuri version of Hades and Persephone, where you have this dark and brooding, um, dark and brooding mistress of darkness, and you have this Peri, who is this very bright and very inquisitive, very much the embodiment of springtime, in a sense. So yeah, it was mostly inspired by the legend of Hades and Persephone. But it's a lot more romantic than the story itself. I have it that basically Cyclonia I remember telling this story, but yeah. Basically, the story is that if for this kind of ship is that Peri has to, in order to keep the regent from taking control of the throne again, Peri sends out this message all across the Atmos saying, "Look, I don't want to do this, but if I'm gonna keep my throne, I have to find a suitor." So Cyclonus sees this as an option to get all the hands on Arlar crystals and do it legally, because if she marries Peri, then legally she's a ruler of Clockstopia, and no one can really touch her. No one can really do anything to stop her, because she's a queen, she's a ruler now. So yeah, no one can really do shit about it. So that's that was kind of her initial thought, and yeah, and the I always had this thought in this idea where Regent's like freaking out, like there's nowhere there's. The rules clearly dictate that you cannot marry a woman. And Peri goes, well, the rules also don't necessarily say it has to be a woman. I can't marry a woman. It's very clear that in nowhere in the rules does it say that I can't get married. I in no way can't get married to a woman. So yeah, Cyclonus basically, since she's of royal blood and she's close to the same age as Peri, Cyclonus is like, yeah, I can just offer my hand in marriage and court her. So that's kind of how it is that at first it kind of starts out as Cyclonus and Cyclonus is just there to get, not really, be there for Peri, but for all the crystals in Clockstopia and actually get a Terra without needing to take control of it, which she could do regardless, because of how medieval, how primitive that Terra is. But anyway. So, yeah, eventually kind of does grow into a love between the two, because I feel like that would just be a fun odd couple to see them, because, of course, Cyclonus is dark and very brooding, and Peri, like I said, is this very fun-loving and adorable, just very inquisitive young girl, who I can just see, like, I just have this scene in my head of Peri, playing with her hand puppets with Cyclonus, and Cyclonus is like, please, God, kill me right now. Yeah. And I've always just these random cute scenes of Peri just kind of in Cyclonus's throne room, not really doing anything, but just kind of sitting in Cyclonus's lap, not really doing anything, nothing too graphic, just kind of sitting in her lap and just kind of hanging on to Cyclonus, and Cyclonus is just sitting there like, yep, this is happening, I can't get her off. And Dark Ace is just like, you need help? And she's like, I can't get her off, and I don't want her off, it's weird. So, yeah, there you go. So that was like I said before, this was kind of my major crack ship, and yeah, yeah, it's just, it would just be, it's totally wrong, but at the same time, it's incredibly adorable, especially seeing, imagining Peri in Cyclonia as a guest of Cyclonus, being Cyclonus's guest. Just imagine her wandering around all of Cyclonia, and her kind of mocking or being or just being Peri, where she's being overly inquisitive and just breaks something in front of, or she breaks Ravis's violin, and Ravis just has nothing but anger for her, and she's just like, I'm gonna kill this bitch, and Cyclonus is like, do it and see what happens. They can't, none of the Cyclonians can do anything whenever Peri breaks something unintentionally, or destroys something, or loses something, because it's Cyclonus's, Cyclonus is trying to court the girl, and she's under the direct protection of her. So they're like, God damn it, we can't kill this girl. Anyway, so there you go, guys. kind of a bit, like I said, bit of a touch up on my Stormhawk shipping vid. So you guys tell me, what Stormhawk ships do you guys have? Just comment below, let me know. Once again, hope you all enjoyed this. And yeah, Carlotta, I know you're watching this. I'm very inquisitive to know what your opinion on all these ships are. I was curious to know what you thought of them, and you kind of breeze past them, and nothing wrong with that, but I am curious in the comments below to see what you really think of all these ships, of my personal ships. I enjoyed all yours, like I said, you inspired me to really ship Junko and Dove, so, yeah, anyway. So, once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I will see you guys later.